Hello, and welcome to the first section of our first workshop, Identity and Success. I'm Ryan, and your host. Living Successfully Group is one of the ways we aim to connect with people and introduce zone innovative concepts. Why is Identity and Success the first workshop that we are sharing? Because while we all see money as the most important commodity that we have, how we think and see ourselves can and will dictate and affect not only how much we earn in life, but many other aspects, including career, our dreams, goals, romance, and truly how much of life we truly live. You can follow along completely free and write down the questions that come along in the workbook and your answers in a journal or notebook. Or you can purchase our e-workbook that will look like this. The print version and the e-version look like this. I have mine in my binder here. And this is yours for $10 if you'd like us to email it and you can print it out. Or you can select our printed copy with a personal note for me, and shipped to you is available for $35, including shipping in the continental USA. You can choose to complete the entire workshop on your own, or you can wait for the next video sections to be posted. I strongly encourage you to join this workshop in with a close friend, a close relative, any people that are close to you, a spouse, a partner, anyone that you feel comfortable doing this with. It is called Living Successfully Group because Living Successfully Group workshops are primarily designed to stimulate dialogue, sharing, and conversation. Our workshops will grow and evolve with the input and views of everyone involved, and so we are so thrilled you're participating. To request a workbook, currently simply send us an email and we will send you a link to PayPal, and you can complete your transaction there and we will promptly send you the workbook that you've desired. If you enjoy the workshop, please share us with as many friends and people on Facebook as you feel comfortable. We deeply appreciate it. Alright, so getting started here with identity and success. What is an identity? An identity is what something is in the mind of others, and if capable, in its own mind also. Everything has an identity, whether it's living or not living, and this is why we have a name for everything. That's their identity. Now, living things like humans and nature, living things know who they are also. There's different levels of self-awareness. Obviously, we're talking about people right now. So, an identity is a blueprint that we look at every day subconsciously that dictates how we view the world and ourselves in every situation, and also how we view ourselves to ourselves. How we see, view, criticize, and feel about the deepest parts of ourselves will absolutely either hold us back forever, or it will catapult us into our destiny and dreams. Our identity is our real power, and our identity is a choice. Making this choice is not easy initially or to maintain, but it is the most important choice that we will make in our life. The first question is, how do you honestly, really, without hiding anything, see yourself? And if you have to pause this and come back in a week, seriously take as much time that you need and really be quiet and be still with yourself and really look in the mirror and really just write out absolutely everything that comes to your mind when you ask yourself, how do you truly, honestly see yourself? The next question is, do you see yourself the way someone else has or still sees you? The third question is this a good or bad thing, or do you know anymore? And the fourth question is, we're speaking about the most significant person in your life that has the biggest influence in how you see yourself. When you're thinking about that person or group of people, how do you see them? Okay, adopted identities. Adopted identities are ways that we feel and see ourselves because we know someone else saw us and or made us feel a certain way. These are not all bad, many are good. For instance, putting on a nice outfit gives us the feeling that we look good, so we feel good, and others also think that we look good, so we see ourselves as looking good. We adopt the identity that others are showing towards us about ourselves. And childhood has a big thing to do with this. All of the different things that happened to us in our childhood, whatever happened to us the most by our parents or the ones who raised us, if these things that happened were positive, that will translate in very important ways into the rest of our lives, and if they weren't in the same way, they will affect us. And that because that's the most sensitive and exposed and undeveloped part of our lives is our childhood. And so a lot of the things that affect our identity happen in those years, and it's hard sometimes to admit that the things that we struggle with in our identity go way back to those childhood years. But that's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's very important that we don't let shame hold us back from maximizing this workshop. There is no workshop that can solve all of these deep and complicated identity issues, at least not right away. But by being able to relate to others and be in a supportive environment, we can learn to shed some old skins, some old identities, and work to emerge out of them, at least somewhat, so that we can learn that who we are doesn't have to be what we have been through permanently or completely. It doesn't have to hold us captive, even though it's part of our life's story. We all know that the world is cold and tough and harsh. Some of us know it more than others. But time is ticking for all of us the same way. And how we see ourselves has to be based on more than what others see us as, because we all have to live and have to die for ourselves. But when we want to get rid of someone else's image of ourselves, what do we replace it with? And when I say getting rid of, perhaps, the way that we see ourselves, the person who influenced that, it may not always be bad. It may not always be horrible and drastic. It just may not be you. It may not be your essence. It may not be your vision, your dream, your goal. And so in some cases it's, situations are terrible and people are full of horrible images and identity issues that are just really deep and dark, and others are not so deep and dark and horrible, but there's still a struggle because pushing against that makes us feel like we're doing something we shouldn't be doing. That's what I mean by that. If we don't find way to turn the page. If we don't find a new default identity, we really won't be able to let go of negative adopted identities or any other adopted identities that we need to release. Our default thoughts directly affect our subconscious. Our default identity is created by the default thoughts, which are what we have been conditioned to think of ourselves based on years of exposure to negative or positive influences. If we don't work on training ourselves to reroute our thought process from our old default thoughts to our new default thoughts, we won't ever be able to gradually develop a secondary subconscious which houses our identity. Now, I wanted to just give a quick side note here on what inspired me to write this in this way. I feel as if the reason I say default and subconscious, the reason I'm using those words is because the way that we respond to situations is an instant response. The reason it happens so quickly is because our subconscious is a muscle and it has learned to respond quickly to situations, but that muscle has been exercised, by all of the impressions from all of the other people who have said things or done things to us. While we might move on in our minds in life, all of those words and impressions and feelings and moods, all of those stay with us, and they stay with us in our subconscious. And our subconscious is kind of like a second person inside of us. And I would imagine the default thoughts that I'm talking about as the brain inside of that second person inside of us. And so when we're presented with life, things that come to us or said to us or situations, they go right through us to our secondary person, which is our subconscious. And the brain inside of that, which houses all of those impressions and all of those things that have affected that secondary person, which is our subconscious identity, that's where we respond from. And so it takes a lot more than saying, oh, just think positive, and oh, just, try to do something on the surface quickly. It's actually very, very complicated, and I've just written in this way because I have just felt these things, and I've worked through these things, and it's not a quick fix, and it's years sometimes of really reprogramming on a daily basis, sometimes even hourly basis, how you respond, because you have to retrain that kid inside of us, really, or that younger person inside of us that is still responding to life based on other people's impressions and other people's words and other people's, the effect that other people have had on our subconscious and our inner person, our identity. We may not need a secondary identity in regards to every situation we deal with, but we do need to identify triggers that cause our negative and destructive self-identity image to arise and cripple us. All right, another question. What are some triggers that give you a negative identity image of yourself? It might be walking in a fancy store and feeling unattractive, being around a certain type of person, smelling a certain scent, etc. This is the time that you need to write out any triggers that give you a negative identity image of yourself. This is not going to be easy, but it's a very important step. When we are able to identify our triggers, we are able to prepare ourselves to practice using our new identity in these situations. We learn to lay to rest the old ways of seeing and feeling about ourselves and to proceed with our new positive self-image. And I don't use the word positive lightly. Positive takes work. Positive is digging and it's removing old graves and old ways and old ruts and cycles. It's, before you can really be positive, you have to remove what's causing the negative. You can't just cover it up and gloss over it. You have to really dig in and take time to figure out the source of these negative self-identity thoughts and issues and patterns. What is this positive self-image that we are going to use? It is the truth of who we really are. Simply because we have lived believing we are something does not make it the truth of who we are. Belief does not equate to truth, because if you believe the wrong thing about yourself, then you believe a lie about yourself. What do you truly believe about yourself? Write out whatever comes to your mind about the things that you believe about yourself, even if you are starting to realize that what you believe isn't true. Write it out anyway. This is very important. And after you've written this out, circle the things that you know are true about yourself that are positive things. And then draw a square around things that you have believed about yourself, but you know they aren't true, but you find it hard not to believe it. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this first section of the Identity and Success Workshop. And for every few hundred friends that join the Facebook, I will gauge. I kind of want to use the workshops as little teasers to encourage everyone who participates to please help us get the word out. And for every 200 or 300 new friends that we get on the Facebook page, then we'll release the second section and in consecutive sections of the workshop. It's been wonderful to be with you today, and we'll see you on the next section. Have an amazing day.